The first sign that something was wrong wasn't a message. It was a knock at the door. It came just minutes after Milad Nasseri left for a business trip. Zora Sadeghi stood alone in the Redmond home they had worked so hard to build together when the sound echoed through the hallway. On the other side of the door stood a man holding a bouquet of flowers. She recognized him immediately. Months earlier, he had just been another voice in a virtual room. Zora Sadeghi was a 33-year-old Iranian-American software engineer who had carved out her own path in Seattle's booming tech scene. After graduating from the University of Washington Tacoma, she built her career through contract work and consulting. Fluent in English and Persian, she eventually turned her attention to something new during the pandemic, a podcast. Hosted on the audio-based app Clubhouse, her discussions were aimed at helping Iranian Americans break into the tech industry. She spoke in Farsi, offering practical advice on interviews, resumes, networking, real guidance for people trying to change their lives. Her audience grew steadily through 2021. One of those listeners was Milad Nasseri. At 28 years old, he was working as a long-haul truck driver. He joined her discussions looking for advice about transitioning into tech. At first, his participation was unremarkable. He attended sessions, asked questions, interacted in group chats. Like many others, he seemed motivated. But as months passed, his presence became constant. Whenever Zora went live, he was there. Whenever she spoke, he responded. In the summer of 2022, Zora organized an in-person meet and greet with members of her online community. It was a group event. Milad attended. After that meeting, something shifted. The messages increased. At first, they came through Clubhouse. Then he found her private Telegram account. He began contacting her directly. Unsolicited, persistent, personal. By November 2022, the frequency had escalated. He asked to call her, asked to meet privately, asked to visit her home. Zora tried to handle it quietly. When that failed, she told her husband. Milad Nasseri, 35, was also a software engineer, previously at Google, now at Amazon. The couple had married in 2011. In 2021, they purchased a $1.6 million home in Redmond. Friends described them as stable, generous, grounded. During the pandemic, they delivered groceries to vulnerable neighbors and made homemade soup for those in need. Now they were dealing with a man who refused to disappear. Together, they blocked every account he used. He responded by buying new SIM cards and creating new numbers. On November 21st, he sent a message saying he was waiting at a nearby hotel. He referenced the name of their street. In December, he messaged her repeatedly, claiming he was in her neighborhood. He didn't know which house was hers yet, but he implied he was getting closer. Zora contacted police and provided his full name and details. She installed security measures. Neighbors were alerted. Her mother came to stay with them for support. On December 20th, Milad left for Australia on business. Minutes later, the knock came. When Zora looked through the door, she saw him, flowers in hand. She called the police immediately. By the time officers arrived, he was gone. The messages continued. In January 2023, jewellery began appearing on their porch. Authorities eventually located him and issued a formal warning. Cease all contact immediately. He did not stop. The tone of his messages darkened. He claimed he would end their marriage so he could have her. He sent up to 100 messages a day. Calls, voicemails, texts. When blocked, he became enraged. He contacted her husband directly, demanding she answer him. He threatened to burn himself alive. He threatened to burn their neighborhood down. He obtained phone numbers of her friends and family. On February 21st, another package appeared outside their door, a silk scarf. Police opened it after being called to the home. On March 3rd, 2023, Zora and Milad filed for a restraining order. She requested the longest term possible, 99 years. Serving it proved difficult due to his transient lifestyle as a truck driver. Around that time, she received a message from him stating that only two things would make him stop: if he ended his own life, or if he died. In the early hours of March 10th, 2023, at approximately 1:45 a.m., Zora's mother awoke to noises inside the house. Milad Nasseri had driven from Texas to Washington. He had broken in through a bedroom window. Zora's mother encountered him inside the home. He lunged at her. She managed to escape the room, fled the house, and ran to a neighbour's home to call 911. Inside, Milad Nasseri found Zora Sadeghi. He shot her. Milad Nasseri then shot her husband. Injured and bleeding, he attempted to crawl downstairs toward the front door. First responders would later find him collapsed on the floor. Milad Nasseri then shot himself in the chest. When police entered the home, they found Milad Nasseri barely alive downstairs. Despite first aid efforts, he was pronounced dead at the scene. Upstairs, they found Zora Sadeghi and her stalker. Both were deceased.
The shocking killing of a podcaster and her husband in their home in Washington state. The suspect, an alleged stalker. ABC's DeMarco Morgan joins us now with the latest on this shocking case. DeMarco, good morning.
Janae, good morning to you. Talk about a tragic story. Authorities say it was just a week ago that the victim put in an order of protection saying she feared for her life. In the end, it would be too late. This morning, new details about a murder involving a podcast host and her husband found dead in their Washington state home.
They have the active hostage situation. The shooter is not detained.
Police say this man, 38-year-old Ramin Hodakaram Rezai, stalked Zora Sadeghi for months after listening to her podcast about gaining employment in the tech industry. The two communicated back and forth through a chat app. Then at some point, things started to take an eerie turn when he contacted her more than 100 times in a single day, according to authorities. Sadeghi writing, "These delusions make me fear for my life and the lives of my loved ones." ABC News has learned just a week before her death, Sadeghi filed a request for an order of protection against the suspect, citing a disturbing pattern of behavior. Police say the suspect, who was a long-haul truck driver, drove all the way from Texas to Washington state, and his next stop, the victim's house. According to police, he shot and killed podcaster Zora Sadeghi and her husband before appearing to take his own life. A neighbor says their security camera caught the commotion overnight.
It was blood-curdling to hear it. I'm not sure I should have gone back and listened to it or not.
The harassment had lasted months. It began with online admiration, shifted into obsession after an in-person meeting, escalated into stalking threats and repeated violations of boundaries. Despite warnings and legal action, it ended inside the very home Zora and Milad had worked years to build.